I am going to be highlighting some pros, some cons, really the good, the bad, and the ugly of living in El Paso. And when you're thinking about investing in El Paso, whether it's for your primary use, whether it's going to be for an investment, supply and demand is a real thing. If you're thinking about buying a home in Texas in 2026, El Paso should definitely be on your radar. Hi, my name is Alexa. I'm a local real estate advisor. I have a team here, and I'm also an investor. And my goal with these videos is to guide you through all of the things that I wish somebody were telling me if I were buying a house again for the first time or relocating into a new city and not knowing anything about it. So in this conversation, I am going to be highlighting some pros, some cons, really the good, the bad, and the ugly of living in El Paso, and some things that most people are not talking about. Now, one of the biggest mistakes that I have seen, heard my own clients tell me is that they believe that all of the Texas markets are the same. And that couldn't be further from the truth. So Dallas is going to be completely different, Austin completely different, San Antonio completely different, and El Paso is in that category as well. Now, the biggest thing that I want to share with you is that when you're thinking about investing in El Paso, whether it's for your primary use, whether it's going to be for an investment, I want you to think of the fact that it has more stability. Dallas, Austin, San Antonio, these places have really grown massively. And when you compare the numbers from the population side, last time that I was looking at the census, it actually showed that we are roughly in the high 600,000s in population. When I compared this to Dallas, I mean, they are in the 10 million range. That is a huge difference that if you're not careful about, it can really affect you, because overall, if you're maybe coming from New York, maybe you have a different mindset than somebody maybe coming from a small town in Oklahoma. These are all the things that you want to definitely consider. But the first thing is going to be slower volatility to an area that overnight booms, right? And everything is just like growing. Maybe if you're just an investor and have a lot of money, it's not going to matter and you're going to take advantage of the growth. But for the most part, the average person, we are going to be hit with taxes. We are going to be hit with something unexpected, which could definitely play a factor in your strategy. So for me, I like the fact that it is stable. Year after year, it has gradually increased in value. I believe that this is something that I like. Maybe in the future, I will change my mind. But as of right now, this is something that I really appreciate. The second thing is, because we are a border town, we have a lot of people that come from Mexico. They invest, they buy, all the things. They like to eat over here too, which also helps with the market when it comes to restaurants and things of that nature. But this is something that if you're in an area where maybe you've been stuck, where you feel like my business isn't growing, I don't really have a lot of opportunities, I feel like there isn't a lot of job security, that is something that, at least from my perspective, I love about El Paso. And I will say this because I know there's always that negative Nancy that comes for me in the comments and is like, there's nothing to do in El Paso, or the prices are going completely outrageous. Look, I wish I could control the fact that, I would just like freeze all of the values of everything in the world and nothing ever change again. But that's just not how the world works, right? Supply and demand is a real thing. The economy as a whole has increased, so don't even get us started with that. So when people complain about the fact that values are increasing, the one thing I try my very best to do is I can't control the external world, but I can control me. So I always try to grow and see where I can grow myself. This is why I preach a lot about becoming an investor. You can buy your very first house, and that little house that you bought at one point as your first primary, you pay it off, you make it a rental, you go into a next one, you do it again. And this is where the little snowball effect starts happening in your favor versus, just complaining about everything that's happening, which is only going to hurt you in the long run. Another thing is that because we are a military-based city. We have Fort Bliss here, and a lot of people are constantly relocating in and out of El Paso. So if that's something that you're like, Alexa, I'm military myself, I know that's why I'm relocating, that you probably already know that. But for those of you that don't, it's something that you definitely want to consider, because my Airbnb stays booked. Like, I right now have, from the past, what has it been since from February, I got a person that stayed for like 3 months. After they left, I had another person come in. That's the person that's currently in there right now. They're going to be here until the end of September. And I just believe that, again, with doing the right marketing, doing the right strategy, you really could reap the rewards, especially depending on the area. Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that this is a scenario for everybody and it's going to be the same for everybody, because no, I've seen some Airbnbs that don't perform really well, and it's because the people are not taking care of them. They're not in the best area. That's a whole other conversation. But just keep that in mind, because military folks do come. Sometimes their family members come and visit, so they need a place to stay as well. The real cost of living in El Paso is something you also want to consider. A lot of people think because we have no state income tax, that automatically says we have some savings here to play with. And yeah, that is true. There's some savings there, but also our taxes in our home are expensive. In the overall summer, when the heat is at 110, you need the AC. So that's something that is going to increase your bill. Another thing there is going to be your insurance, depending on your location, depending on the structure of your home. That's going to be a factor. I will say though, from personal experience, the most I've paid in my insurance monthly has been about $110. So again, do with that information as you please. But this is where really talking with your agent to guide you is important. And there's some companies that charge outrageous numbers. You want to work with a broker that can help you get the best rate. Overall, if you are considering looking at the pros and the cons when it comes to living in a different area, for me, it still makes sense. I have seen it with my clients. They love the fact that the affordability, if they're comparing it to somewhere like California, Washington, New York, those areas are really expensive. So when they come over here, they are surprised by how much of a home they can actually afford. And they always call it a castle compared to what they're used to over there. And what I like to say is, especially if like you work from home or you have like your business, it's really nice to save money and then you get to travel more, because now you're not just living and getting a paycheck and spending all of it in your rent or in your mortgage, because you have a little more flexibility. So that's something to consider as well. I do want to also mention the fact that there's different pockets in El Paso, and this plays a factor when it comes to what you're going to pay. There's some areas that, for example, if you're going to be in the west side, that's going to be something that you want to consider for new development. You're going to be close to the Franklin Mountains. You're going to have more easy access to the outdoor experience. You're going to have strong school districts, mountain views. Then if I move you to somewhere like the lower valley, you are going to be further out from these amenities that I just mentioned, but your price per square foot is going to be phenomenal. I'm going to insert a photo some photos for you guys of a listing that we have for $190,000 right now, that you would typically think, yeah, that's not going to work. Like, what could I really buy for $190,000? It is a beautiful house, and as the market continues to increase, this is something that, again, could become a rental property for you, or maybe a first-time home. It's completely remodeled, and typically that's the kind of thing that I like to talk to my clients about. Like, look, it comes down to your strategy, it comes down to your preference, it comes down to what you need. But when we can really get this dialed in, you understand what pocket in El Paso you want to live in. I also hear this all the time, especially for my people relocating that are not actively in El Paso. They tell me, Alexa, I want a commute of 30 minutes or less if possible. And that is 100% possible. In El Paso, it's not like, unless you want to live in the outskirts, that is very different. And I do have some clients that will reach out and tell me, I want to be out in the boonies. I want to be away from civilization. I want to have some acres, and I want to have my own privacy. That is totally obtainable. However, for the majority of people, they want that easy access. 375, I-10, are going to be your best friends depending on where you're located. There's some additional highways that you also get to use, but to simplify it for you, that is something that just makes it easy for you to get from point A to point Z, and it will allow you to also save money when it comes to gas, because I know when you're in Dallas, when you're in Austin, I mean, the tolls, those things definitely can add up. And I've seen it, I've seen it with family members myself. And that's something that if you are considering, you will not have to worry about it here in El Paso. Now, my next point was actually already talked about slightly when it comes to the commuting, but I really think that this is important for you to understand, and choosing the right area does play a huge factor on how quickly you're going to get to and from work, school, for your kids, whatever you have going on. And this is really where some of the frustrations can come about if you choose the wrong area. I've had to tell clients like, look, I just want you to be aware that the house that you like is in this area where there's development happening right now. So this is something that you just want to be aware of, because it will add a little bit more time to your commute. Once it's ready, you won't have to worry about it, but while they're working on it, it is a love-hate relationship. I actually purchased a home in an area like that, and I will just say it's been a learning experience for me as well, because I've had to really practice my patience. And I still love it though. It worked out for what I needed with the game plan that I have for that property. But I do like to share this because, again, there's a lot of the conversations that go on with people that they're like, well, I didn't really consider this. My agent didn't really talk to me about it. And then now you're stuck in a home that you don't really like. Now, something that also some buyers underestimate when moving into El Paso is the fact that they are not considering what kind of AC the home has. And I will tell you from experience, you want to invest into a house that already has the refrigerated air. If you don't have it and you want to add it later and you got a good price per square foot, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But I will say, I will not purchase a home right now without refrigerated air. It gets way too hot in the summer. I personally like the heat, I will say that, so I'm a little bit biased. I have family members that are from Colorado, and that's awesome for them, but I would not live over there. I love Colorado to visit, but it's way too cold for me. I have family members in Washington, same thing with them. I'm like, yep, that area gets a little too cold for me. I could not do that. I just came back from New York. I was like, yep, that's a little too cold for me. I know that in the summer, like, it's okay, right? But in the winter, it's cold. El Paso is very different. Like, our winters they get cold, but they're nothing to the extremes of what I've seen in other cities. And also the heat, yes, it's hot. It gets to 110, 100, I mean, the most I've honestly personally experienced has been 110. And I feel okay. I feel like I could still go outside. I won't necessarily stay there for a long time, but I can still do things. And I just think that this is the part where you want to really see if that's something for you, because I know some people, they don't like the feeling of feeling sticky. For me, that's San Antonio. Like, I love visiting San Antonio, don't get me wrong. I love visiting Austin, but that's a little too sticky for me. You can feel it in your body as you're walking, your hair starts puffing up and you're just like, no. So El Paso is very different in that we are more of a dry heat, and I can put up with that. But again, this is really where you want to see if that's going to work for you long term. And something I will say is that this is why I mentioned that the house really should already have refrigerated air, because if you don't, it might cost you anywhere between $10,000 to $15,000 to upgrade it. And that's, again, if all goes according to plan. So just keep that as a reference, because if you buy the wrong home and you're stuck in an area that you don't like, and you're stuck with a house that you don't like, you're going to feel like you made the worst investment of your life. And that's not something I would want for you guys. Now, why El Paso feels so different from places like Dallas, Austin, as I was sharing earlier, the growth factor is definitely playing a huge component here. Places like Austin, Dallas, they grew exponentially quickly. And El Paso has always had this stigma of we're behind. And I do believe that it has been strategically done this way to ensure that everything is growing in a way that feels in alignment with the development happening and personally with the community. Because again, there's a lot of people here that, and I see it all the time in the comments where people are like, oh, like you guys should feel bad because you're buying out some of these people that have been there for generations. Look, my family has been here for generations, so I totally get it. But this is the part where I shared earlier. It comes down to strategy. Like I can sit here and complain about the fact that my taxes are going up, or I can just get creative and say, okay, this is something that I have no control over. How can I continue to provide value to the market so that I can continue to grow and help people? And this is really where the mindset shift happens. But for me, in El Paso, when I compare it to somewhere like Dallas, I saw it the other day actually. I was thinking of purchasing a home in Dallas as an investment property, and I reached out to one of my agents that I have over there, and I was like, hey, like, what do you think about this area? And she was like, no, this is not an area that you're going to enjoy. Definitely stay away from it. And it's the perspective that I've shared about the fact that, yes, even though on paper something might seem good and something looks nice, if you end up in an area where it doesn't make sense for you and your family, and you end up being in an area where, yeah, you're in Dallas, but you're in the wrong area in Dallas, does that really make sense for you? In El Paso, it's very different. As long as you're open to the feedback of your agent, you will end up in a nice area that you will feel safe in. And again, this is really where the overall options that you have really matter, and getting your numbers dialed in is one of the most important parts here. Now, let's get into some of the things that I get a lot of questions around, which is, who is El Paso good for? Now, this is perfect for you if you're a military family, if you're a first-time home buyer, a medical professional, if you are a remote worker from home. Also, if you're looking to be a long-term homeowner, I think that El Paso really gives you that community feel. It gives you the ability to purchase something that is still affordable, but still beautiful and in an area that you feel proud of. So this is really where you need to make a decision based on your unique situation. But our goal is to advise you as much as we possibly can in order for you to know if El Paso really does make sense for you. So with that, if you do have any questions, feel free to click on the link down below, send us a message. We can have a strategy session with you, answer any additional questions that you might have. And regardless, if you are not looking to buy in El Paso specifically, but you are looking at Dallas, anywhere else for that matter, we have agents in the entire US. So if you are comparing markets, or even if you're thinking about what questions should you ask your agent, is now the right time to buy, follow this channel. We have a ton of content to help you ensure that you're making the right decision. So with that, thank you for sticking around with me, and I will see you guys on the next one.